with the wonderful Eve Myles, the fantastic actress who plays Faith Howes in Keeping Faith. And tonight on BBC One, you'll be delighted to know that Series 2 of Keeping Faith is launched. It's the premiere tonight. So we'll be talking to her later on. And here, if you haven't seen Keeping Faith yourself, is a little bit about it.
The new series of Keeping Faith.
Daddy's here, quick!
Starring Eve Myles.
Can't hurt me anymore, Evan.
I should never have come home.
Steve Baldini and your wife, just how close are they?
Package is on your desk. That's it, I'm done, I'm out.
Not till I say, a debt's a debt. You clear it.
Faith, you've never done a murder
But
case.
then, let this be the first.
Why aren't you helping me? Faith, please.
Starts tonight at 9 on BBC One Wales.
Oh, wonderful. Gabrielle there, When a Woman. And, well, it's quite a topic, really, because I have been joined by What a Woman, by the one and only Eve Myles. Say hello to Eve, everybody. Hello. Probably the most popular person on the Royal Welsh Showground today, I would imagine. And thank you so much for coming on, Eve. Now, you're here. Obviously, we know you. We've got plenty of time to talk about, Torchwood and Broadchurch and so on. But most of all, we're most proud of you for taking Keeping Faith, modern Wales, really, and this fantastic story to the screens of everybody around the UK, and so successfully. And tonight is the first show of Series 2 of Keeping Faith, which has gone straight on to BBC One.
Big breath. Yes. Yes, it is.
So tell us about the first series then, when you first saw the script.
Well, I got the script through when I was very early stages of pregnancy, actually, with my second daughter. And of course, it came through in Welsh and in English, and I didn't speak Welsh at the time, and so it was an impossibility for me to be able to do it, unfortunately. And then I read the second and realised that it wasn't something that I could pass. So I needed to take on probably one of the biggest challenges of my career, and what a project to be able to do that on. And I look back at it and with no regret, and with joy and with a proud heart.
Yes, because it is, I grew up in North Wales, as you know, because
Yes.
we've met many times now, haven't we? Because I'm a super fan of Keeping Faith. And when I grew up in the 60s and 70s, obviously times were very different then. I watched the moon landing on a television in North Wales. It was that long ago. But, one of the things I loved about Keeping Faith, and there are many things, as you know, that I love about Keeping Faith, is the fact that it's brought modern Wales to viewers who are living in England and Scotland and Northern Ireland and so on, and that's an important message, I think.
Yeah, it was incredibly important to us that we showed Wales, as a cosmopolitan place.
Exactly.
We're such a smart, humorous, intelligent nation, and yet Keeping Faith still keeps that traditional side of Wales, which is the heart and the warmth and the love that we always,
and
the
that family
that we have
and
here.
that family.
The family, yeah, and the community is so important. But we wanted to demonstrate and to show and to celebrate how beautiful and epic and magical our nation is, and tell it in a story that was very, very contemporary, and yet keeping that kind of very traditional grounding to it. And that's Wales for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And Faith Howes, let's talk about Faith Howes and this lawyer,
Yes.
mother,
Yes.
wife.
Yes.
Introduced at first, this is like perfect family setting.
That's right, yes.
This beautiful woman, and the children are funny, and 3 children,
Yeah.
including a little baby, and Evan, the husband, who of course is your husband in real life, which must confuse matters sometimes.
Oh, just a bit.
When you're acting, but and then it all goes very wrong very quickly. So can you just remind people of that storyline before we come on to talk about Series 2?
Well, as you said, it's an idyllic family. They're living in this pocket of paradise in West Wales, down in Pembrokeshire. And they've got, a successful business, a successful family. And I think one of the most heartbreaking part about the story is that it is a love story. It's about 2 people who are in love now as they were when they first met in college. They love each other. They have a very sexy relationship. It's very kind of hot. and happy and joyous. And yet they kiss each other. He leaves for work. She has a hangover, and they never see him again. You know, until episode 8, of course. Spoiler.
Yes.
So literally within 24 hours, the lives of these people are turned upside down. And that's heartbreaking, because apparently this shouldn't happen in small communities like this. But it does.
But
it happens
does.
all over the world.
And Faith, of course, thinks at first that something has happened to him.
Yes.
That he's died or
yes.
he's been in
He's
an
been killed,
accident,
yes.
which of course would be the normal reaction of
Absolutely.
anybody. And then that isn't what happens.
No, and then that tin of worms just starts to get bigger and bigger, and, you know, spews out more kind of deep embedded secrets that kind of shows a side of her husband that she never knew existed. It was a different man. It was a different life. And her life had been built on lies. I've got this fantastic line in Series 2 where I say, I don't know anything. My life is built on sand. And I think that encapsulates Series 2 beautifully for Faith, is that nothing is safe, nothing is certain, and there's danger and fear and survival at the forefront of her brain all the way through this. You know?
And that was one of the things. I mean, I want to talk about Steve Baldini, obviously.
I bet you do, Carol Vorderman.
Don't we all? But there was also that dangerous element. So Faith was there, and you know, she's a lawyer, a rural lawyer, and living a perfect life, but nothing that was dangerous as such. Obviously, she had to go to court because that was part of her job.
Yeah.
So she saw things that were happening, but then there was imminent and prescient danger in her life. I mean, that she was fearful for her life when the bullet came through, you know, in the envelope, came through the door.
She's an academic woman. She deals with all sorts of court cases and all sorts of people who are guilty and not guilty, but she's always prepared. You know, she's super smart lawyer, and when it comes away from the court and it's a personal thing and it's something that you don't recognise at all, you're not prepped for that. You've got no tools for that. And especially when your husband, you know, who's supposed to love you and care for you and cherish you, is the perpetrator. So yes, when that bullet came through the door in the first series, she knew that it was a completely different kettle of fish. It's a very Welsh saying, isn't it?
It's a kettle
That's a different kettle of fish.
Don't use that
anywhere else. But she knew then there was a different tone, and the show took a different tone from there. And then, of course, the Reardons came in and the Glyns came in.
Yes.
And then
the mafia, in effect.
The mafia
Swansea
came in.
Mafia.
Yeah, and that just touched the surface into what we're going to get in Series 2.
Okay.
That's when it really starts to get
Well,
exploded.
we're going to have a little bit of music, and then we'll talk about Series 2 and Steve Baldini. How many times can I mention Steve Baldini?
If you mention
have
it
to
more
leave
times than anything, I'll buy you a pint.
All right, Steve Baldini. You can fill in. You can introduce the next bit of music. And I'm going to talk about doing it in Welsh as well for S4C.
Yes.
And all sorts of things. So stay with us.
Thank you. I will. I'd love to.
Thank you. Here's Paul Young. And love of the common people. Carol Vorderman with you live on BBC Radio Wales from the Royal Welsh Show, alongside the wonderful, we're so proud of you, Eve Myles, who of course stars in Keeping Faith, and Series 2 begins tonight on BBC One.
Yes, it does, yes.
Are you nervous?
Oh my goodness, it's... Yes, I do have to keep reminding myself to do big, deep breaths. And
I can't believe you're nervous, though, because Series 1 only began on BBC Wales, didn't it? It wasn't shown around the UK, and then it caught the fire, really, in the imagination of everybody, because it went to number 1 on the iPlayer, on the catch-up.
We started before Christmas on S4C,
and
then it came out, I think it was January time on BBC Wales, and then it went out, as soon as the last episode went out, it then aired, I believe, on iPlayer, or something like that, went out on iPlayer, and then it just started to tally up, and it, like thousands, went into hundreds of thousands to millions, and I felt part of something really, really traditional and really special, I guess is the word, because it was word of mouth. And if you're going to make anything, you know, you can get press all over the world and billboards, and you can be on buses, and you can be on front pages of magazines. You can have all of that, and all of that costs a tremendous amount of money, you know.
But that didn't happen, did it?
No, we didn't have any money. We didn't even have money for our car. I mean, my car in it is my director's car. So it was word of mouth. And that means that people had connected with it and were enjoying it and were telling people about it. And that meant so much to us. So that's kind of how it all kind of came about. And yet, I'll never not be nervous. I'll always be nervous, especially on, the TX day, which is the day it goes out. I'm always very, very apprehensive. So it's nice to have a diversion and come here today and speak to you.
Well, you've got a lot of support here, and I understand what you mean about, sometimes it's difficult for people who aren't involved in the industry to understand about all of these huge budgets, so we've got Top Gun 2 coming out next year. Well, it's already spent probably tens of millions on pre-publicity and so on and so forth. But huge. Keeping Faith, as you were saying earlier, is so close to your heart because it is about Wales, about modern Wales, which obviously you love, and you live in Wales and you're bringing your children up in Wales, and yet you will have opportunities galore to go and move to London and other places, I'm sure, as a very successful actress, but you've chosen not to. And then for people to be so sincere about their enjoyment of Keeping Faith without all of the advertising and the marketing and so on is
well, you can't buy that.
You cannot buy it.
It's invaluable.
Means the world.
It really, really, really does. I put a message out on Twitter last night to say, today I'll be spending most of the day very nervous, reminding myself to breathe.
Yeah.
And but we have genuinely made the second series because people wanted us to make the second series and gave us the chance to do it. The people who tuned in every week, the people who watched it all on iPlayer, is the reason we got a chance to do the second series. So it is a gift to them and a thank you to them. And all I want to do is to be able to please them and to make them go, I really enjoyed the second chapter of Keeping Faith.
Well, I've been very lucky. I've managed to see episode 1, as you know, because I compared the premiere of Keeping Faith in the museum in Cardiff.
Brilliantly so, may I add. You did.
A couple of weeks
Can
ago.
I just say before you say my father was there, and it's the first time my father had ever been to something like that.
Dad.
I know you met my dad, Carol Vorderman.
It's the first big thing like that he's ever been to, and I was nervous for him, and he was nervous for me, bless him. So he sat behind me, and after the first episode went down, he tapped me on the shoulder, and I looked up at my dad, and I looked at him, kind of wanting, him to go, well done, darling, and he went, is there any way that I can get an autograph from Carol Vorderman? And it was the first thing he said to me after watching episode 1. I said, yes, Dad, I can sort that out. No worries. That's the first thing he said. Yes, so yes, you
and you're
did.
still speaking to me.
We are, yes.
Wonderful.
It was the highlight of his night, yes.
That's very fun. We'll give him my love, won't you?
Oh, don't start, Carol.
And Steve Baldini.
And Steve Baldini. I should have brought one of his vests for you. I might put
Does he have a whole wardrobe of vests?
I'm going to put one in the post for you.
One that
that he hasn't washed. I'll get on to the makeup artist now and the costume designer,
So tonight, Series 2 begins at 9 o'clock.
Yes.
And then, because I've only seen episode 1, obviously, everyone was watch it tonight. Millions and millions of people watch it tonight. But then, for the first time, it's like the whole of the series is available on iPlayer, is that right?
Yes, that's the first time that's happened with us.
So it's like a box set is available.
So you'll see episode 1, and then as soon as episode 1 finishes tonight at 10 o'clock, it will go straight onto the iPlayer, and you can watch all 6.
So I'm going to be shattered in the morning,
You
aren't I? 'Cause
are,
I'm going to be
yes.
up all night watching this.
It is one of those programmes that leaves you at the end going, well, I'm going to watch 5 minutes of the other one. And then you find yourself at the end, and you've got, well, if I watch 5 more, I'll only have myself to blame in the morning. But at least,
So I need a bottle of wine from
You
the
need
supermarket.
2 bottles of wine.
2 bottles of wine.
You're a North Walian after all. Come on. 2 bottles of wine.
Sometimes I pretend to be a lady, you know.
Oh, don't pretend. Just be yourself. Beautiful Carol. Get yourself a nice cold something. Get yourself some peanuts. Put your feet up, and hopefully we've given you something enjoyable to watch.
Oh, I've absolutely no doubt, Eve. So, Steve Baldini.
Actually, Carol, I have a surprise for you. No,
Really, I looked. You did looked as well.
with huge anticipation.
So now, you see, the big thing... Actually, we've got hundreds of people here now watching us. And I'm going to ask you, so Faith Howells, who should she choose? Evan or Steve? Can we have a shout out for Steve? and anyone for Evan?
What about just Team Faith?
No.
I'm starting to introduce that because they're going, who would it be, Evan or Steve? I'm going, maybe she doesn't need anyone.
So does this, because it ended, of course. There you were, it was the last sort of 10 seconds of series 1.
Yeah.
And then you were close together.
Just having a
and
cutch.
little
bit
more
of a
than I'm
cutch.
sorry.
It's just
I'm
friendly. Where I'm
sorry.
from in Astragan Life, that's just being friendly.
That was more than a cut. That was a nose rub.
It was a bit of a sniff. It's a bit of a sniff and a cutch.
Sniff and a cut. So will this love triangle continue?
I think that there is there's a huge attraction there, and there's like magnetism between these two characters, and I think they've both entered each other's lives at a very low ebb, and they've both kind of fixed each other like two pieces of a jigsaw. The most unlikely, the antithesis of each other, really. They were brought together by Evan.
Yes, ironically.
Ironically brought together by Evan. And I think that in the world of faith, nothing will ever be easy and nothing will be straightforward.
Well,
and it'll always remain painful.
Well, I hope whether it remains painful for Faith or not, that you stop being nervous about today. She should enjoy today, shouldn't she? Because we're going to love Series 2, and we wish you every success with it. Thank you very much to the beautiful Eve Myles.
Very, very lovely.
Thanks a million.
It's the passionate